Welcome to Congress in Context.
Hello!
If you're a regular listener, you know we usually grab a big stack of articles, maybe a few white papers, and try to piece a topic together for you. But today, we are pivoting. We're doing something very specific. We're completely ignoring the op-eds, the cable news chyrons, and we are looking exclusively at the primary source code of American democracy, the congressional record.
Which, I'll be the first to admit, is not exactly light beach reading. It is the official word-for-word transcript of everything said, done, and, voted on in the House and Senate.
Yeah.
It is dense. It's bureaucratic.
And thousands of pages long.
Usually.
But that's why we're here, to wade through all that dense stuff so you don't have to. Our goal with Congress in Context is to strip away the noise and find out what actually happened on the floor and how those big decisions in D.C. are going to land on, your local street corner.
We want to be insightful, objective, and frankly, figure out where the money is going.
And there is a lot of money to talk about today.
Billions.
Billions. So today is Thursday, January 29th, 2026. But we are actually looking back to last Thursday, January 22nd. It was a marathon session in the House of Representatives.
Oh, it was the last day before a district work period, which is, congressional speak for recess. The members were desperate to get out of town, catch their flights, and get back home.
And nothing motivates a member of Congress quite like a TSA deadline.
Nothing.
So on the docket today, we have a massive minibus spending package to unpack, and we need to talk about what that word even means. We have a bitter fight over Homeland Security. We've got a culture war debate over pregnant students. And we have something that I honestly thought was a myth until I saw the roll call vote. A perfect tie.
It's a procedural unicorn. We'll definitely get to the mechanics of that later because it explains so much about the fragility of the current majority.
Okay, let's start with the wallet. The House passed H.R. 7148, the Consolidated Appropriations Act, 2026. Now, I keep hearing this term minibus. Is that just a cute way of saying small bus, or does it have a technical meaning?
It has a technical meaning. It's distinct from an omnibus. In D.C., an omnibus bill is when you take all 12 appropriations bills, funding everything from the Army to the national parks, and you just, tape them together into one giant doorstop and vote on it once.
Right.
A minibus is a smaller bundle. This specific one combined 4 buckets: the Department of Defense, Labor, Health and Human Services and Education, Transportation and Housing and Urban Development, and, sort of Homeland Security.
Okay, let's put a pin in Homeland Security because I heard that got weird.
It did.
But looking at the vote count for this minibus, H.R. 7148, it passed 341 yeas to 88 nays. In this political environment where getting people to agree on a lunch order is hard, 341 votes is a landslide.
It's a massive margin. And if you read the explanatory statements from Representative Tom Cole of Oklahoma, the chair of Appropriations, you can kind of see why. This bill is the result of just exhausted compromise. It rejects about $163 billion in proposed cuts that some hardliners wanted. It protects funding for the National Institutes of Health. It keeps Head Start running for kids, and it maintains child care programs.
So it's basically the keep the lights on bill.
Essentially, it funds the core functions of government that, 70 to 80% of Congress agrees are necessary.
But let's zoom in, because when we say consolidated appropriations, people's eyes glaze over. But hidden inside these bills are what we used to call earmarks. Now they're called congressionally directed spending.
The return of the earmark.
Exactly. And this is the local connection. I was looking through the tables included in the record, and some of these line items are incredibly specific. It's not just money for roads, it's money for your road.
That's the whole point. Earmarks allow a representative to basically bypass the federal bureaucracy and say, I need money for this specific firehouse in my specific town.
Let's look at New York, because their delegation really went to town on this. Representative Mike Waller secured $2.6 million for the Rockland County Sheriff's Department for a reality-based training facility.
Reality-based is interesting phrasing. That usually implies high-tech simulation centers, active shooter drills, de-escalation scenarios. It's expensive infrastructure that a county sheriff's budget often just can't handle alone.
Right. Then you have Representative Nicole Maliotakis. She got $5 million for an EMS training center and generator improvements for the FDNY. Seems like basic safety infrastructure. But then I saw one from Representative Ocasio-Cortez. She secured $850,000 for a school food forest hub at Adlai Stevenson High School in the Bronx.
Right. And that's a perfect example that's going to raise eyebrows for some and be a massive win for others. A food forest is essentially a sustainable permaculture garden integrated into the school system. It's educational, it provides fresh food, it's very Bronx.
Just like the sheriff's facility is very Rockland County.
Exactly.
And then there's my personal favorite from the list. Representative Latimer secured funds for the Mamaroneck Town Safety and Economic Renaissance Roundabout project.
The Renaissance Roundabout. I mean, you have to appreciate the branding.
It sounds like I'm going to emerge from that traffic circle holding a painter's palette and speaking Italian. But,
Yeah.
I mean, jokes aside, why does this matter? Why do we care about a roundabout in Mamaroneck?
Because that roundabout is why the bill passed. This is the secret sauce of legislation. You want a representative to vote for a $1 trillion package that contains things they might ideologically hate, you give them a win for their district.
Ah.
Representative Latimer can go home to Mamaroneck and say, I fixed that intersection you all hate. And that buys his vote for the defense budget. It greases the gears.
Okay, so the Renaissance Roundabout is the spoonful of sugar. But even with the sugar, there was some medicine that the House really did not want to swallow. We have to pivot to the fight. Because while the minibus passed easily, the Homeland Security Bill, H.R. 7147, was a brawl.
An absolute brawl. This bill covers the border, ICE, TSA, the Coast Guard. And unlike the other funding bills, there is zero consensus here. The vote was 220 yeas to 207 nays. I mean, that is razor thin.
Almost entirely party line. And this is where I got confused looking at the schedule. The House leadership knew this bill was toxic. They knew half the chamber hated it. So why did they link it to the popular bill? I read about this rule, H.Res. in 1014. It sounded convoluted.
It's not just convoluted, it's a legislative hostage maneuver.
Okay, explain that.
Okay, so the leadership has a problem. Everyone wants to pass the defense and education money, the minibus, but a lot of members want to kill the Homeland Security bill. If you vote on them separately, the minibus passes, and the DHS bill might fail or just get stalled.
Right, makes sense.
So they passed Rule 1014. It explicitly ordered the House clerk, the nonpartisan person who handles all the paperwork, to not send the popular minibus to the Senate until the House passed the controversial DHS bill.
Wait. So they basically held their own bill hostage. We won't let you have the military funding until you eat your vegetables and fund the border.
Precisely. They forced the medicine down before they served the dessert. It forced the moderate members to hold their noses and vote for the DHS bill just so they can move on to funding the rest of the government.
And looking at the floor debate, holding their noses might be a bit of an understatement. The rhetoric here was just incredibly heated.
It was. You had Representative Jerry Nadler from New York. He didn't just oppose the bill, he scorched the earth. He used the phrase American Gestapo when referring to ICE.
Whoa.
Yeah. He argued that voting for this bill was giving a blank check to an agency he believes is fundamentally abusive.
American Gestapo is not the kind of language you use when you're looking for compromise.
No. And the Republicans hit back hard. Representative Tom Cole and Representative Mark Amadei defended the bill. They argued that Nadler's rhetoric was reckless. Their position is that these are men and women on the front lines protecting the nation, and denying them funding is a dereliction of duty.
It's a perfect example of two parallel realities. One side sees a law enforcement agency essential for sovereignty. The other side sees a human rights violation funded by tax dollars. And the vote count just reflected that total divide.
And that divide didn't stop at the border. There was another piece of legislation tucked into this marathon day that we should probably address. H.R. 6359, the Pregnant Students' Rights Act.
This one felt like a sudden shift in tone. We're talking about billion-dollar budgets, and then suddenly we're debating Title IX. What is this bill?
On the surface, the text says it requires colleges to inform pregnant students of their rights. Accommodations, class adjustments, that sort of thing. It sounds pretty benign.
Transparency usually is. So where's the conflict?
The conflict is in the subtext.
Yeah.
Opponents argued that the bill was actually an anti-abortion vehicle. The criticism was that it emphasized carrying a pregnancy to term while obscuring or not even mentioning the right to terminate a pregnancy or access contraception.
Yeah.
So the debate wasn't really about informing students. It was a proxy battle over reproductive rights on campus.
So even on a day dedicated to fiscal policy, the culture war finds a way onto the floor.
Always. But speaking of finding things on the floor, we have to talk about Venezuela, because this is where the Congress in Context promise really hits. If you just read the headlines, you might have missed H-Con Res 68 entirely.
This was the resolution directing the removal of U.S. forces from Venezuela. And I have to be honest, when I saw this on the docket, I thought, Wait, do we have troops in Venezuela?
That was exactly the debate. Representative Brian Mast of Florida stood up and basically said, this resolution is a total waste of time. His argument was that there are no U.S. troops engaged in hostilities in Venezuela. He's saying you can't order the removal of troops that aren't fighting.
Okay, but Representative Jim McGovern from Massachusetts disagreed.
Strongly. McGovern cited a specific event from early January 2026, just a few weeks ago. He claimed there were boots on the ground. His argument is about the War Powers Act. He's saying Congress has to reassert its authority now to prevent unauthorized involvement later.
So it's a preventative measure.
Exactly. It doesn't matter if they aren't shooting yet. If they are there without Congress saying yes, they need to go.
Okay, so a classic war powers debate. But the result of this vote, I had to check my glasses. Roll call number 48.
215 yeas. 215 nays.
A perfect tie.
A mathematical impossibility, usually.
So, quick high school civics refresher. What happens in a tie? Does the vice president come over and break it?
Nope, not in the House of Representatives. In the House, a tie means failure. A bill needs a majority 50% plus one to pass. So 215 to 215 means the resolution just dies.
That is wild.
It's wild, and it's so consequential. Think about the margins here. If one single person who voted nay had switched to yay, the U.S. foreign policy stance toward Venezuela fundamentally changes. If one person who was out sick had shown up, the outcome flips.
It really highlights the fragility of the majority in this 119th Congress.
Yeah.
We talk about Speaker's power, but really, the power belongs to whoever has the flu that day.
Absolutely. Every single attendance mark matters. And that ties right back to why they were rushing so hard on this Thursday, that district work period.
Right, the flight home.
The Speaker had designated Thursday, Jan 22 through Sunday, Feb 1, as time to be back in the district. Representative Grothman from Wisconsin even mentioned in his closing remarks that he had factory tours and constituent meetings all lined up.
So the urgency to finish these bills wasn't just about fiscal responsibility. It was about making sure they didn't miss their factory tour in Wisconsin.
Deadlines drive decisions. If they didn't finish, they were stuck in D.C. for the weekend, and that moves votes.
Okay, we've talked about the money, the fights, and the ties. But I want to close with the people. One of the things I love about digging into the record is finding the extensions of remarks.
This is like the DVD extras or the comments section of Congress. These are statements that are inserted into the record that weren't actually spoken out loud on the floor, but they're printed and they become part of history.
And this is where you see the local connection again. But this time it's personal, not financial. We saw a lot of tributes to veterans this week.
We did. Representative Lisa McClain from Michigan submitted a statement honoring Domenico Mosseri. He was named Veteran of the Month. He served in the Marines from 1951 to 1954.
And Representative Zachary Nunn from Iowa honored Master Gunnery Sergeant Wesley Wes Helms. He was ending a 22-year career.
The Helms tribute is interesting because he was a legislative fellow. He actually worked inside Congress. It's a good reminder that the military and the legislature are so deeply intertwined, people flow back and forth between those worlds.
And it wasn't just military. Representative James Moylan from Guam honored the 75th anniversary of the Pacific Daily News.
Which is an absolute lifeline for Guam. We talk about news deserts here in the mainland U.S., but in a territory, that paper is often the only record of record.
Right. And Moylan also honored a woman named Bridget Lucas on her 90th birthday, highlighting her escape from communism. These stories, they just humanize the sterile pages of the record.
They really do.
But there was one moment, back on the floor, amidst all the fighting over the Gestapo and the hostage rules, that really just stopped me.
You're talking about Representative Steve Womack?
I am.
Yeah, this was heavy. Representative Womack of Arkansas was managing the transportation and HUD section of the bill. He was standing at the podium, doing the technical work of passing legislation. And he was doing this just days after losing his wife of 41 years.
41 years. And he showed up to work.
He did. And the record captures this really rare moment of grace. Representative Rosa DeLauro from Connecticut, a staunch, fiery Democrat. She stopped the proceedings. She and Representative Tom Cole, a Republican, both just paused the political fight to offer personal condolences. They praised his dedication to duty.
It's such a stark contrast.
Yeah.
5 minutes earlier, they are ripping each other apart over border policy. And then for a moment, they are just colleagues mourning a loss.
It's the paradox of Congress. It is a place of performative cruelty and genuine humanity, often in the very same hour. And despite the friction, despite the near-tie votes and the hostage tactics, the result was that H.R. 7148 passed. The government got funded.
The system worked.
The system, creaky as it is, functioned. And Mamaroneck got its roundabout.
And Mamaroneck got its roundabout. So to recap the day, we saw the House pass massive spending bills that reject cuts to science and education. We saw a bitter partisan fight over the border that required a complex rule just to get to a vote. We saw a tie vote on war powers that proves every single member counts. And we saw that even in the middle of a culture war, there is space for human grief.
It's a messy, complex, and vital machine.
It certainly is. If you want to see exactly what your representative said or didn't say, you can always go to congress.gov. Look up the congressional record for January 22nd, 2026. You can read the full text of those extensions of remarks we mentioned, or, check if your town got a food forest.
It's all there in black and white.
Thanks for joining us on Congress in Context.
We'll see you next time.